The South African economy is not doing well. And usually, one of the big problems with an economy that is already struggling, an economy that isn't growing and hasn't been growing in any way, shape, or form for the last decade, the issue is that you can sort of go along just fine as long as the waters don't get too messy, too rocky. The issue in South Africa is not only do we have no economic growth, we also have a dying mining sector, steel sector, agricultural sector. All of these sectors are declining as time goes on. And our debt to GDP ratio is now above 75%, which is usually where bad things start to happen. You see, because now any sudden change to the economic situation for the worst becomes a catastrophe, one that your country isn't capable of dealing with because you have no headroom. There's no available space to move from. For those of you that don't quite understand, South Africa is dangerously close to a position where we will spend R1 billion a day just servicing the debt of South Africa. Let that sink in. R1 billion a day, in other words, 365 billion rand a year, will not go to building schools, will not go to providing grants or providing healthcare. It won't even go to paying salaries. It will go purely to servicing the debt of our nation. That is insane. Now, just a few months ago, Donald Trump announced a new initiative in America. And we can talk at length about whether or not the tariffs are good. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump wants tariffs. And very specifically, he threatened South Africa with 30% tariffs if South Africa does not open their markets to the American corporations. He has a whole list of demands that he wants from South Africa if South Africa wants to trade. And at the top of that list is equal access to the South African market. South Africa needs to drop their tariffs so that America can play. But okay, before we get into the video, if I may ask you to very quickly hit that like button and also leave a comment. The YouTube algorithm just very recently changed where YouTube wants to fight clickbait, and that they do that by now rewarding engagement rather than views. So it doesn't matter if you're watching the video or how long you're watching the video. YouTube wants to see whether or not you enjoy the video. So if you do, leave me a comment, hit that like button because it does help out a ton. With that said, let's quickly look into this. In case you were wondering whether or not these tariffs will have a real impact on the South African system, just take a look at this article from techcentral.co.za, where the main lobbying body, NAMSA, is talking about what the tariffs will do in South Africa. And they're specifically the lobbying body for the automotive industry in South Africa. The AGOA agreement, automotive exports, actually was the biggest benefactor of the AGOA agreement, accounting for 64% of all AGOA trade between South Africa and the US. However, the announcement and anticipation of the recent tariffs have had a devastating and immediate impact on trade performance. Even before, remember, tariffs are not officially yet into effect, but even before the formal effect of tariffs were in place, vehicle exports to the US dropped by 73% in the first quarter of 2025, followed by a further decline of 80% and 85% in April and May, respectively. In other words, this is having a very real effect. Now, of course, what does the ANC actually do? Well, the ANC sends a minister or a Mr. Mcebisi Jonas. After Razul, the previous ambassador, had some choice things to say about President Donald Trump, was expelled from the US. The United States the South African government decides, we'll send Mr. Mcebisi Jonas to become the new sort of spokesperson for South Africa to try and hash out a deal with the United States. The problem, however, MTN. You see, Mcebisi Jonas is a board member of MTN. Not only that, but things get really awkward and weird. The links between Cyril Ramaphosa, so he becomes a special investment envoy to President Cyril Ramaphosa in April of 2018. And then he gets appointed as the chairperson of the MTN group in December 2019. So very close ties between this man and Cyril Ramaphosa and MTN. MTN, for their part, is currently in massive legal trouble in America, with America alleging that MTN has directly contributed to terrorism, specifically Iran-backed terrorism, throughout the world. There are lawsuits upon lawsuits, and the problem is all of these lawsuits come from various different angles, and now there's even talk that they may be up for securities fraud because they lied to their shareholders about all of the business that they were doing in Iran. You see, MTN owns 49% of MTN Iran Cell, which is one of the biggest cellular providers in Iran. And specifically looking at the legal cases here, MTN just recently lost a court motion to dismiss one of these cases, specifically the case here where Zobay versus MTN Group Limited alleges that a group of American citizens were killed or injured by terrorist attacks in Iraq and Afghanistan between 2011 and 2019, and specifically Iran Cell enabled this to happen. Now, what makes this really, really bad, and specifically the dismissal by the judge of this case, is that Cyril Ramaphosa himself was the chairperson of the board from 2002 to 2013, meaning that this would have happened under the watch of Cyril Ramaphosa. So clearly, we're in serious trouble here. Not only is the man that we've sent, Mcebisi Jonas, he is currently embroiled in legal troubles because he serves as the chairperson of the MTN group, whilst also being the one to have to deal with America, right? And try to get South Africa a favorable deal, but probably he's there just to get arrested, I guess. But our president is also involved in all of this stuff. And the DA put out this letter where they're asking a very serious question. Where the hell is the government? In all of this, we're seeing massive issues with the trade and the tariffs, and this is going to be very, very bad. If the automotive industry in South Africa closes down, I don't think people understand how many industries is going to go alongside it almost immediately. And it's as if this country and our president just doesn't care. They're just sort of chilling, waiting, and they couldn't care less whether or not this is actually going to get fixed, because they seem to live in this pretend world where the China or Russia will help us out. China or Russia will step in and they'll buy the stuff that America doesn't want. You see, the bad news for South Africa is that we have a trade surplus already with America, which means if America applies tariffs on our goods going into America, we will be the ones suffering far more than what the Americans will, because we sell more to the Americans than what we buy from the Americans. Now, people who are saying, well, we can simply start selling to China, we already have a trade surplus. China buys a lot more from us than what they sell to us. The issue is that the things that China does buy from us, they're already buying everything they need. They don't need any of the other things, right? They're not going to start suddenly importing all of our car parts. China is trying to export all of their cars to the rest of the world. They're not trying to get cars from us, right? The same is true in terms of steel. China is already selling their steel to us. They're not taking our steel, right? The same is true in agricultural products. China is already taking whatever agriculture it wants. It's not taking more. So in all of the industries where South Africa is the most vulnerable, China isn't going to pick up the slack, nor is any of the other countries on the BRICS list, because Brazil has no economy to speak of. It's basically a joke country at this point. Russia is embroiled in war. They don't have money to be spending on importing and exporting stuff. Well, they'll export some oil if we want it. But outside of that, you're just shut out of luck no matter what you do. Fundamentally, the DA is right in asking this question. Where the hell is South Africa? Why is there no seriousness in this government? It seems like we're stuck in this world where our government just sort of, they think that it's fine to just act when the crisis happens. It's as if we have no ability to plan ahead. We can't act ahead of time. We can never be proactive in this country. We should always just be reactive. Oh, crisis. Let's react to this crisis now. Rather than saying, look, we know that a crisis is going to unfold. it's best to act now to try and circumvent or completely step aside the problem, right? But no, apparently we can't do that. Let me know in the comment section down below what the hell is going through your head. Can you make sense of this? Maybe you have an explanation. I'd love to read it. As always, hit like the disc if you didn't, and I'll see all of you in the next one. A peace.